Hi guys, Kevin Tharp here. Today I want to talk about metrics, KPI reports, and tools. Now, we spend a lot of time working with one specific tool in this class, and that's Google Analytics. And that's because it's extremely powerful, it's extremely accessible, it's for the most part free until you really ramp up. And it's a tool that works for us. But there are a lot of other tools out there that you can work with. Today I want to walk you through some of the metrics that I use when I'm looking at class participation and class engagement. I'm going to talk about some of my key performance indicators. Then I'm going to show you how I use another piece of software called Power BI. And this is a tool that you can begin using for free. It's from Microsoft. And the free version is somewhat limited, but that's all right. It still allows us to do. And what it'll allow me to do is pull tools or metrics from data from multiple different places. So let's make a run through here, and I want to show you this and how I use this to judge how we were doing in the first 3 weeks of class. So I'm in ICT analytics right now. One of the things that I have access to as an instructor is it's called View User Progress, and what this is a group of metrics about how students are interacting with the content in the course. And I'm not going to go into anybody's individual things so that you won't be able to identify who these people are, but there's all kinds of information that I can see in there. I can get really granular to see exactly what you've accessed, when you did it, when you last accessed it. So there's a whole set of information in there that has to do with how you've interacted with the course. So grades, content, this is the one that I look at a lot. Discussions, obviously I pull data from the discussions, Dropboxes, quizzes, whatever is in D2L, I've got the ability to go in and look at. So I'm going to back out of that to the master. Okay, so that's one set of data that I have access to. Another one, in this class, we use discussion forums. So in the discussion forums, I've got access to statistics, and I can look at that by user, or I can look at it by forum and topic. And so these are all sets of information that I can use to see how people are interacting individually or as a group with the various different kinds of content. And I'm able to export that as a CSV file, which is just a comma delimited comma separated values file. So it's basically the data that you need to do a spreadsheet or something like that. So this is the discussions. And then another thing that I'm able to look at is within the course textbook, I'm able to go in and I've got access to analytics that you can't see. So if I go to my courses, then in each textbook for each class, I'm able to go in and I'm able to look at the course analytics about how people are interacting with the textbook. And I can set date ranges, but the kind of information that I have includes students and how many times each student has logged into the textbook. I can see how many minutes the group or each individual has spent, and I can see that by chapter. I can even see it, I can dig into it by chapter and see which pages you've read and how much time you spent on each page, as long as you were reading that in the e-textbook reader. Now, if you choose to download the textbook, and then when you next log back in, then I get those analytics as well. So it's a pretty interesting thing, and it allows me to sort of deep dive into the analytics. So that's the metrics, that's the sources of my data and the different things that I can measure. Now, what I want to do is I want to identify what are my key performance indicators and how do I take advantage of those to see what's going on in the classroom and the likelihood that people are going to be successful. Because ultimately, that's the return on investment that we're looking at, is whether or not you're successful. That's both my return on investment and your return on investment, is how successful you are. So at this point, what I'm trying to look at is the idea of engagement. How much are you, the students, engaging with the content? And the content is primarily at this point, what I'm looking at is having access to textbook, because that's a performance indicator. If you're not reading the textbook, you're not going to be gaining the information that you need. The other thing that I'm looking at is how much you're interacting with each other in the discussions, because this class is a seminar class. That means that we read and we discuss, and that is the learning model that we use in a seminar class. So what I've done is I have downloaded a series of CSV files from the discussions. From that one is the on campus, this one is the online. Just a group of data here. One of them is logins into the textbook and whether or not you're on campus or off campus. So I've got your name, logins, and whether you're on campus or online student. So what these do is they allow me to look at the data. And what I had to do is I had to establish relationships. And so what I needed to do is I needed to tie all of these other sources of data to the logins and status. And the logins and status is the data that shows me who you are, how many times you've logged into the textbook, and whether you're on campus or a CI student. And so we established these relationships here. And I'm not going to go into how to do this. My main focus here is just a broader understanding of how these tools work, because they're all in some ways similar. By the way, I learned how to use this software in one morning using a lynda.com tutorial. The software that I'm using is called Power BI Desktop. I'm going to close this. And I'll lower this down so that you can see, so you can see the name of the software. It's right there at the top, Power BI Desktop. You can download this for free, and you can go to lynda.com and do the getting started with Power BI Desktop and learn everything that I learned. And it only took me a few hours to do that. So what I've got here is, here's information about logins by location. So if I pop this out, what you can see is that I've got logins and locations. So here's the number of logins. Here are for the online students. Here's the number of logins for on campus. So in the first 3 weeks, there's a significant difference in the number of logins by the on-campus students and the number of logins by the online students. So the next thing that I want to look at is I want to look at, first off, I can look at logins by student. So I'm going to pop this out, and what you'll see is that out of, 42 students, let me go ahead and close that down. Out of 42 students, there were about half of you that had never logged into the textbook by the end of the third week. And that, as a key performance indicator, is how much you're accessing the textbook. That was problematic. So that becomes the first point where I see that, hey, I've got metrics here that show me that one of my key performance indicators there's a problem with. There's about half of you who are in the range that I would expect, between 1 and 4 logins to the textbook, and then one person here who actually has more logins than the entire on-campus group of students. So we've got an outlier there who's very aggressively going into the textbook. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I wanted to see, because everybody's been separated into groups. Now I had a problem because I had group 3, for instance, and group 4 in both the on-campus and online. So what I did is I applied a filter that let me look at these separated from each other. So I was able to say, show me the campus students in group 3 and the online students in group 3, because there's 2 group 3s, but I had to separate that out so that they weren't combined. So what you can see here is the black lines represent the number of logins by discussion group and location. So that's what I'm looking at, is the number of logins into the textbook. And so the online discussion group 1 has had 7. The online discussion group 2 has 18, but 14 of those were by one individual. So without that outlier, then that one is very low. So the same thing you can see for on campus is that the number of logins is very low, and in fact just further shows that not everybody had logged into the textbook and done what they needed to as far as what was assigned. So now I want to look at, so that gives me an idea about the first key performance indicator is, are people reading the textbook? The second thing that I wanted to look at is interaction, because interaction is a key component of this class, because we do the reading, that's the first key performance indicator, and then we do the discussions, that's the second key performance indicator. And when I look at this, I'm going to look at the on campus right now. There's 3 things that I'm looking at. How many are read, which is important but not as important. Threads is important because a thread is each time that a person creates a thread. So the first time you post something to a discussion group. And then the second one is replies. So this is, are you participating? And this is, are you interacting? And the interacting to me is the key performance indicator that I really want to see, because it's not a discussion if you're not interacting with each other. Just going up and posting without interacting doesn't accomplish what we need to do. So now I come in and I'm able to look at threads by location and discussion group, and this has been narrowed down to on campus. So what I'm able to see is discussion group 3 has had 10 on campus, discussion group 4 has had 13, and discussion group 5 has had 12. So that looks pretty good. We can come into the online, and the same thing. We've got 40 online threads, and we've got 86 online replies. Okay. And then when we come in here, we can see by group. So I'm able to start seeing how well are each of the individual groups working with each other. So group 4 has got the lowest. Group 2 has got the highest number of threads. So this is the original postings. Okay, so I'm going to back that out, and now I want to look at, the replies. And again, this is where we start seeing the interaction, and this is where the data starts turning from just analytics to insight, because I'm able to start seeing some things going on here. So one of the things that I did is, again, I'm looking at replies, and I'm able to break it up into discussion 1. Insight is this group here, which are green. Discussion 2, which there's no data yet, because when I pulled this down, nobody had started that discussion yet, so I'm not worried about that. And introductions, and what you'll see is, introductions, everybody sort of got on board. 3 had 7 replies. Group 5 had 48. So very different levels of interaction going on there. And so from my perspective as an instructor, the more of these replies, that's a key performance indicator that tells me how you guys are functioning as a group. And so this one here becomes a point where I need to gather additional insight to see why this discussion group did not show up in discussion 1. So that becomes an item for action. When I look at the online, and I'll pop that out so it's a little bit larger. And you'll see there's some really cool features in this tool that I'm going through that allow me to do these visualizations once I've established the relationships. So what I've got here is replies by topic and forum. So here, discussion group 4, 2, that's not so good. 10's not bad, 26 is great. So this was in discussion 1, insight. So what you're seeing is there's a huge difference in the interaction between discussion group, let's see, this is discussion group 2 online, and this is discussion group 4 online. And so there's a huge difference in the kind of experience that you're going to be having if you're in discussion group 2 versus discussion group 4. So discussion group 4, and again, same thing, these groups are performing. Discussion group 3 is in the same ballpark. These were the introductions. So what I'll be watching is, how does this discussion go? And the problem for the people who are in these groups that are not interacting is that the level of interaction in these discussions is correlated to the grade that students get in this class, because the more engaged you are, the more likely you are to learn and succeed in the class. So I want to see these numbers of threads and replies go up in this discussion, because that's what it's going to take for you guys to be successful in this. Now, the next thing that I was able to do is I was able to go and look at textbook logins by group. So again, this is combining data from very different sources. The groups is part of D2L. The textbook login is through the e-textbook. And what I'm able to see is similar to the other information, group 3, group 4, group 5. This is the on-campus. And then we have the online. And again, discussion group 2 is out and ahead. But part of that also is that one individual outlier. So if you took out that one individual, this group is actually down here at 4 as well. So without that one individual. So when you're looking at analytics, you have to really start going past just what is it showing you to what's behind it and what does it mean. And so this is why I would never have been able to see how the interaction is going in this group if I had not had access to this Power BI. And BI means business intelligence. So what I've done is I've taken the metrics that are available to me as an instructor, and I have pulled them together and made relationships in this tool, Power BI, that allowed me to go from metrics to seeing the analytics for key performance indicators to action items. And so the action items are, part of it is this discussion where I'm saying, hey, if you're in one of those groups that's underperforming, you need to start moving forward, because it's going to affect the quality of the education that you get if you don't interact with each other. And so that's my hope for you, is that now that you see what's in here, you'll start interacting more. Now, you may be watching this in a different semester. This may not apply to you at all. But the idea that you can use this tool to pull data from very different sources, as long as you've got a way of linking them. And the way that I linked them was, again, in the managed relationships, I linked the student name from all of these to the logins and status. And the status is what gave me whether or not it's on campus or not. So I was able to combine all that information through managing different sources and come up with not just analytics, but insights. And I actually met with the groups that were on campus to have a discussion to try and make a plan for how are you going to go ahead. I would like you guys, as you're functioning as a group, go ahead and have that discussion. Talk about it. You can do that in the discussions each week. How do you plan to maintain a high level of interaction so that you guys can perform better as a group? So the insights, I was able to face-to-face, I was able to go and get insights about what had happened. And we were able to make some changes there, and they came with a plan for success. So that's where the insights come in. Why wasn't that working? So sometimes you have to go past the analytics to understand who are we working with and what were the circumstances surrounding it. And so that's where the insights come from, is taking that next step of going from I have data, I have created graphs that let me visualize what's going on, to understanding why and what can you do to act on that data. So that's all I've got for now. Again, if you want to learn how to do the Power BI, you can download that from Microsoft. I'll show you where to do that in a minute. And then you can go and take the Linda tutorial on how to use the Power BI desktop through the UW Stout, lynda.uwstout.edu. And you can go and take that and start using this yourself. And I think that some of you, especially those of you that are out in the business world, might find that this is a really great tool. There are others out there. Tableau is another big one that I'm going to learn to use but haven't learned to use yet. And there's a lot of programs that are out there. Again, we're going to be focused on Google Analytics in this class because that's the tool that we're using. But there are other tools out there that can do the same kind of stuff. That's all I've got for you today. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.